So firstly, a very warm welcome to today, which is Wednesday, the 22nd of February for Spirit Educational Month. Today, we are joined by Claire and Dolph, who are going to be talking to us about all things Bacardi. As I said, you should have your tasting sets with you in front of you. As always, any questions, please do pop them on the chat as we go through the session. And as always, the session will be recorded and shared to everyone via YouTube channel after today's session. So without further ado, I will hand over to Dolph, who will do a bit of an introduction and take it from there.
Sure. Is that sharing?
Yeah.
It is indeed.
Perfect. If you get 5 seconds while we're chatting to download Kahoot, if you already have it, that's great. But there'll be a quiz at the end, points mean prizes. We've got some goodies for you as well. We are.
Go on.
Go on, Claire.
I was going to say, you've got your kits there to just make sure you've got them handy as we go through the presentation. So.
Cool. Go on, Claire.
So yeah, just a little bit about me and Dolph. I am your account manager. I look after pretty much all of HoReCa for Bacardi, and I've been at Bacardi for about 11 years. I've done various roles. I think the only one I've avoided so far is grocery. So I've been looking after hotels for the last year, as well as restaurants as well. So I'll pass you over to Dolph, who'll do a majority of the training, and I'll just chip in with some stats at some point. So the boring stuff, he's got the good stuff to do.
So like Claire says, my name's Dolph, or Adolfo Comas. I'm the trade brand ambassador at Bacardi Martini Limited. I've been here 22 years, multiple types of jobs. So hopefully I know my stuff. If there's any questions, like they say, put it in the chat. We'll come back to you and give you the answer to the questions as we can coming out the back end of this. So we're going to take you through who we are, a bit about the history of rum, and then talk about the brands that you've got in your pouches. So First off, who we are. We are the world's largest privately held spirit company. We've been privately held for 161 years now. 4th of February 1862, we celebrated our 161st anniversary. So, which is pretty good. In our portfolio, it's not just Bacardi. We got Bombay Sapphire, Grey Goose, Dewar's, Martini, Patron, Tequila, a whole host of other things. And in that envelope of brands, we've got a lot of the world's best. So, for example, Bacardi is the world's most awarded rum brand. We've got Martini, the world's most awarded vermouth brand. We've got Dewar's, the world's most awarded blended whiskey, Scotch whiskey brand. So we've got some quite big brands in our portfolio, most of which are iconic brands. So they're bar call brands. People go in asking for Bacardi, asking for Grey Goose, asking for Martini by name, which is quite good. Our global vision stems from our shareholders, our corporate shareholders, who are all family members of the Bacardi family, and we want to be the world's leading premium spirit house, where people fall in love with our iconic brands, and more importantly, we bring people together with great drinks. And I think that's the one thing that we've got in our arsenal, is that we help create wonderful drinks for people. And like I said, we are 7 generations of family members, stemming right back to 1862 with Facundo Bacardi. On a more local level, we are headquartered in Bermuda, Hamilton, Bermuda, but our global marketing office is in Spitalfields, London, and our brand new UK head office is in Francis Street in London. So we're local to the UK as much as we can be. We also have distilleries up in Scotland, down at Laverstock with Bombay Sapphire. We were recently 27th greatest place to work certified, world's top female-friendly company to work for, by Forbes. So we are global, but we try and keep things as local as we can. And that also stems to some of our sustainable stuff that we're doing. So Bacardi are aiming to be totally sustainable by 2030. In fact, Bombay Spirit Company and Martini Vermouth are both fully sustainable now. All of our production facilities are fully sustainable, which we've done 8 years early. We are, removing plastic from packaging, doing all sorts of stuff to try and leave a better mark on the world. That's a little bit about who we are. In terms of the rum category.
Yeah, like I said, this is boring stuff from me. So basically, the rum is the 3rd largest category with 15% share, and it's continuing to take share from the other categories such as vodka and gin. Oh my God, can you hear my Alexa going off? So yeah, so it's forecasted to continue to grow. And in terms of the share of the value sales, if you look at the pie chart, then the spiced rum category is 59% of the overall rum category. I don't know how to turn that off. It's brand new, sorry. Basically, so yeah, so if you look at the rum category, whilst white rum is still big, the actual bit that's growing the fastest is spiced and flavored, and within spiced and flavored, 90% of that category is spiced rum. So you've still got 4 of the top 10 cocktails which include rum, so rum position's in really good shape.
Cool, enough of that. Or Alexa, I'm going to do a quick abridged history of rum. To do rum justice, we need a whole session, multiple hours. I'm not going to do that. I just want to give you an understanding of what rum was like, and then what Bacardi has done to make its own mark in that rum world. So the history of rum starts way back in the East Indies, when people had discovered that they could use sugarcane and sugarcane juice to create alcohol. Early alcohols include things like arak, which is an Indian-based liquid. As the colonial powers discovered this, they would transfer the sugarcane pretty much in the sugar belt region between the latitude of Capricorn and Cancer, is what we call the sugarcane belt. And in that belt, you've got a proliferance of the right climate to grow sugarcane, which is why you find sugarcane growing all the way through the Caribbean, sort of northern parts of South America and Asia. And anywhere it's grown, people would turn it into alcohol, as well as sugar spirits. The Europeans actually took sugarcane when they started colonizing the Caribbean to places like Guadeloupe, Martinique. The Spanish took it to Cuba. The Dutch took it to the Dutch Antilles, all sorts of places. And where you had sugar, you have this population of people that would thrive and live off sugar. It leads to wonderful flavored liquids. You can see that right across the Caribbean, all with their unique characters, all with their unique styles. It even blends into religion, and some of the early references for voodoo and so that Creole culture come from enjoyment of rum. The British Navy, not to be outdone, would travel and police the oceans. They would blend rums from lots of different islands, and a Navy style of rum was created. But because these were blended from all sorts of cheap rums in the Caribbean, they turned into these foul tasting concoctions. And it's actually the Royal Admiralty who first decided it would be a really good idea to make proper blended rums. And you have the brands like Navy Rum, Pirate, some of these sort of Navy style rums coming together where it's a defined recipe. And you get these really early sort of rum blends that really deliver lots of flavor and consistency and flavor. But in all honesty, most early rums of this sort of era were hot, hellish liquor, the harsh tasting concoctions. And it was down to lack of refinement, lack of production process, out of the need for speed. And what we have in 1830 is the arrival of Don Facundo onto the market, who is the man behind Bacardi, who wanted to tame the demon spirit of rum and create a light style of rum, something that was different to the rums on the market at the time. You've got to remember this time in history, you've got really wonderful brands like Mount Gay and Appleton's all doing their stuff, and this was a completely different style of rum, a Spanish style of rum. Which was a much lighter, more accessible rum for the colonials living in the Caribbean. What Don Facundo did was he pioneered some production processes that really defined that category and put Bacardi on the map as the quintessential Spanish style or Cuban style of rum, which is where we're going to get to today. So I'm going to start with our mother brand, Bacardi Carta Blanca. You'll have a sachet somewhere marked Carta Blanca, and all I want you to do, if you've got a glass, is just pour it into one of your glasses. We'll get to some tasting in a minute, but if you put it in your glass, you've got it while I'm chatting. So Don Facundo Bacardi Maso created Bacardi in 1862, like I said. And what he did in that process was he tried to tame the demon spirit of rum, and in doing so, pioneered 4 crucial processes that helped him do so. So The first thing Don Facundo did was he found a strain of yeast that would turn our sugars into alcohols in about 26 hours. Most rums at the time was natural fermentation. These things could take days to ferment. With a quick fermentation comes lightness and much more control. He then puts his rum and distills it and creates two liquids, an aguardiente and a redistilado, fire water and a redistilled spirit. And in doing so, created the first parallel process in rum. Created two rums that he then blended together to create one. He then puts his rum through a charcoal filter. He puts his rum into a barrel and ages it. And we have purposeful aging for a minimum of 12 months. Every drop of Bacardi you have anywhere in the world has been aged in the Caribbean for 12 months. There is no coming out of a still straight into a bottle. So everything is aged. And then when it comes out of barrel, it has this kind of golden straw-like color. And what Don Facundo did was he put it through a charcoal mix. Charcoal helps to remove flavors and remove astringency. Different charcoals do different things. One charcoal in that mix was a oak charcoal, which removes the oak and vanillins put in by the rum. Coincidentally, also removes the color, and we end up with the world's first aged white rum. So that's why Bacardi carries the name Bacardi Superior, or superior, because at the time it was a superior style of rum. What Don Facundo then did was he hand signed every single bottle to say that his rum was ready for drinking and ready for consumption. That's why all of our bottles have got a hand signed, at the time, now obviously mechanically signed label. And all that dates right back to 1862 when the family was created, or business was created. On our rums, you'll notice on all of our bottles, there'll be a bat. The bat is a symbol of good fortune, family unity, strength, virility in both Spanish culture and native Taino Indian culture in Cuba. Bats are possessed of all social and cultural goods. As a result, when we put the bat on our bottles, it was put on there by a lady called Doña Amalia Bacardi, who's Don Facundo's wife. Most people couldn't read, they were illiterate, so couldn't read the name Bacardi. So we'd go in asking for El Ron del Murciélago, the rum of the bat. And in those early years, that's really what helped Bacardi create these wonderful, help Bacardi sell more of these rums early on. You'll also see on our labeling, it says Receta Familiar. Our recipe is still passed down from generation to generation. There is no written recipe for the recipe for Bacardi. It's all hand taught, distilled down from one master of rum to the next through an unbroken line of 86 different masters of rum that stretch right back to Don Facundo in 1862. Our current master of rum, Troy, he is been in the business nearly 30 years. He's only just qualified as our Máximo Maestro de Ron. And it's his job to steward that recipe and hand it down to the next generation. They are the key to our rums. If something happens to our masters of rum, we are really in trouble. So, rum of the bat, 1862, hand passed down through masters of rum, no written recipe. From a small distillery in Puerto Rico. That distillery actually appears on our labeling. Bacardi was founded in that small, you can see it on the picture here, distillery on the left-hand side on Matadero Street in Santiago, Slaughterhouse Street. And it was one small shack, couple of barrels and a tin pot roof. When our company was founded, Don Facundo San Facundo gifted his father a coconut palm. And the idea was that as the company grew, so would his rum, and so would the rum company. And it's so intrinsic to us to have our folklore that if you visit us at any one of our distilleries, at any one of our sites, so our new offices in Francis Street, you'll see a coconut palm planted. And considering we're such a big company now, the folklore that actually pulls us all together to combine us as one larger unit, one larger family. You'll also see on our labelings a load of gold medals along the bottom. Bacardi is the world's most awarded rum. We have over 1,100 gold medals associated with us, not just because we mix well with spirits, but because of the innovation behind it, behind our product, behind the way we make it, behind our facilities. The first medal on this sheet at the bottom, you'll see it just on the labeling, is Barcelona 1888. That's where the Bacardi family go back from Santiago to Barcelona, win a gold medal at the home exposition, become purveyors of the Spanish household. And actually, that's the completion of Boy Done Good. Don Facundo wanted to go make his mark on the world. And this is the sign that says he actually went and did what he said he was going to do. Unfortunately for him, he died the year before. So as a result, his son Emilio and Facundo decided to honor their father by putting medals on the bottles. And we are now the world's most awarded rum with over 1,100 medals. So when you see on our labeling, so it says established in 1862, that refers to when the company was founded. Our rums are currently made in Puerto Rico and in Mexico. The facilities there are the right altitude, the right humidity for our aging process to work well. We do not make rum in Cuba for political reasons. So as a result, we are a company in exile and we make our rums in Puerto Rico. So for those that have got a sample, if you just take a small smell on it, you'll notice that it smells like there's something there. So most people go, oh, Bacardi just tastes like vodka, there's something there. Actually, on the nose, if you smell, you do get a lime note, you do get a violet floral note, you get a little bit of sweetness on the palate. For me, that's like a lime zest or a little sort of touch of sort of almost chamomile on the palate. Very little burn, a little bite on the pepper bite on the tip. You get a little note of almonds, a little note of cheers, a little note of almond, a little note of mushroom on there. It's actually quite pleasant. Mouth coating, so you feel your mouth getting a bit more savory. People don't tend to drink Bacardi like this, and as a result, people just assume it doesn't taste of anything. But actually, as a sipping rum, as a white sipping rum, it's actually quite versatile. You can see why it was so influential in cocktail menus, right from inception, right through the golden age of cocktails, 1920s, right through the 1950s, and that tiki moments, and then moving through to become the world's #1 selling spirit in 1974. You can see why people were enamored with it. So this is a 12-month aged rum, which is then blended together and charcoal filtered. The second one you're going to have in your sachets, I want you to look for Bacardi Carta Negra. Carta Negra. Carta Negra is a rum that was created so late 1980s, when people started going, oh, we want a bit more depth, we want a bit more rum notes in our blends. So as a brand, as a liquid, it continues to use the same process as the Bacardi rum. Proprietary yeast, parallel process, aging, purposeful aging in oak, and then charcoal filtration. The charcoal filter is different in Carta Negra than it is in Carta Blanca, and the reason, obvious reason you'll see there is it's not clear, it's golden brown. There is a little touch of caramel extract in there just to give it a bit of color consistency. Created from the recipes set down by Don Facundo. It is expertly crafted by a master of rum who still taste the product through its process, from tasting the molasses, tasting the ferment, to tasting the distillation, to tasting the blending in barrels, to ensure that the flavor hasn't changed or mutated, and it's then blended to a consistent flavor. She still carries the Bacardi bat, she still carries the Bacardi name, expertly crafted by Masters of Rum. She has her own awards. We combine them all up together, but she's part. Carta Negra has her own awards that make up the larger 1,100 gold medals. And really, it's a real sort of entry-level move from a white rum drinker into an aged rum. On the bottles, you'll notice there's a photo of a guy called Emilio Bacardi. Emilio Bacardi was a revolutionary in the 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. He fought for a free democratic Cuba. It's where we get our sustainability, our CSR, all of our sort of corporate responsibility stuff. steps right back to the late 1800s when Emilio himself was doing it. He was campaigning for a free and independent Cuba. He actually spent time in the penal colony in North Africa for his convictions for being sort of subversive. When Cuba was freed by the Spanish during the Spanish rule by the Spanish-American War by the Americans, he came back to Cuba and was the first freely elected mayor of Santiago. So properly a social conscience of our business, created in 1862, from a recipe in 1862, but created in late 1980s. On the nose, I've got a sample. The familial rum note you had in Carta Blanca is there, but then there's this back note, almost like a little touch of pipes tobacco, a little bit of sort of raisin that comes through. And on the palate, bit more bite. You get a lovely oak note, a lovely tannin, a lovely vanilla notes. Those flavors have all come from the barrel. No additional flavorings to this. And the reason I can say that is because on our labeling it says Bacardi rum. If we added any flavors to rum after it comes out of a barrel, you can't call it rum anymore. That's a spirit drink. So Bacardi Cabernet is a rum, and all those flavors you're tasting come from time spent in barrel. And the barrels can be blended anywhere between 2 years and 3 years, depending on the time of year, humidity, heat, and temperature. All blended, aged in Puerto Rico at the Cathedral of Rum, and all created there. The third sample you're going to have is Bacardi Spiced. Bacardi Spiced is a spiced drink. It will be the third one on in your sachets. Bacardi Spiced was created. This blend of Bacardi Spiced was created. It was launched in 2017 into the UK market. There's a need for a spiced rum. Spiced rum is kicking off, growing, and it has that familial spice note. Again, still expertly crafted by our maestros de ron, blended from the techniques they use from 160 years of knowledge. It's a genuine spiced rum. It uses Bacardi rum as its base. Because we add then infusions of cinnamon, vanilla, and other flavorings, we then, as Bacardi, we don't call it a spiced rum, we call it a spiced spirit drink, which is why on the labeling in the UK, it says spiced spirit drink. On the palate, you're going to get the sort of cream soda note. You're going to get vanilla. You definitely get cinnamon. And on the palate, you get this wonderful sort of creamy note. The vanilla is definitely present. And it's really just a lovely tasting spiced rum for what spiced rum is. Our fourth blend that you have is Bacardi Coconut. Bacardi Coconut, in the same way as the other rums, was created using Bacardi rum. It is created under license for us at our Martini plant, where they blend it. It's made by a wonderful lady called Liv Bader. And the rum, Bacardi didn't want to do was create a sickly sweet coconut rum. We wanted something that had the coconut credentials, but still be true to our brand. So Bacardi rum, it uses Bacardi rum as its base, and then we got an infusion of coconut milk, coconut flesh, blended together to create a rum liqueur, and then that is what's added to as a distillate into the rum to create Bacardi Coconut. On the palate, it's quite a light coconut note, and it's not until it's in your mouth and your palate you get that really lovely sort of coconutty note that you expect, almost like a liquid Bounty. For those don't know what Bounties are, mouth coating, delicious. It mixes really well with the more tropical fruits, so things like pina colada. But then you can also go cranberry juice and orange, for example. And you can blend it. Still mixable, still very, very versatile. That's our range of rums. That's what you've got in your palates. Hopefully, when you're tasting it, you're looking through this and trying to figure out what flavors you like. I'll rattle through it because I'm 27 minutes in, but any questions, put them in the chat and we will get back to you and answer your questions.
So there are a couple of questions in the chat. One from Hervé. Hervé, do you want to take that away? So he's put in the chat, what is the difference in aging process in regards to the Blanca and the black and other than the color?
Stop share. Can you see me? So what's the difference between, other than color? Well, this is 12 months old. This will be a 3-year-old, 2 years to 3 years old in barrel. They are the same barrel that they're held in. The other difference is the recipe will be a different ratio of aguardiente to verde destilado. So the blend is slightly different. The inside of the barrel is also different. So on Carta Blanca, we've got a light toast and a light char, whereas in Bacardi Spiced, it's still a light toast, but the char is heavier, so you have more interaction with the wood. Does that answer your question?
Hervé?
Yep.
Wait. And a second one, I'm not 100% sure if this is a joke or not, but why don't you do Bacardi breezes anymore?
We do Bacardi breezes.
A few answers, but
yeah, Bacardi breezes are available. They're this will age some people in the room. Bacardi breezes are 30 years old this year. They're still available in market. Our biggest markets are Benelux, Asia. The government taxed the crap out of them in the late 90s, early noughties, and as a result, most of the RTDs that were in the market disappeared. So that's why in the UK, this is more of a taxing. The government just wanted their bang for the buck. They're still available. I want to say they're
in
available.
The supermarkets that you can get them. Yeah, Tesco, I think, still stock them. So some of the bigger malls take them.
There's some really interesting flavors for those that travel. There's some really interesting flavors. Go out somewhere like South Africa, for example, or Australia or New Zealand. Some really interesting flavors. You know, kiwi fruit and all sorts of really wonderful, weird flavors. So they're still alive. They're still out there. More collector pieces these days when people are buying them to have ranges. But yeah, and they're 30 years old.
Okay, there you go. Any other questions? How much sugar is added? Is that into the Bacardi Breezer? That's from the Winchester team. How much sugar is added? Is that to Bacardi Breezer?
Into Bacardi Breezer, I wouldn't know because it's different for each market. But in terms of Bacardi rum, there's 0 sugar added here, and there's 0 sugar added here. The only added sugar here is caramel coloring. Is E something, I can't remember the name of the number, which is a food. It's a caramel derivative which allows us to ensure there's no flavor, no color loss in the bottle. So that's negative. In spice, there is sugar added to it because of the infusion of the liqueurs, and I'd get the number for you, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it's 1.2 grams per liter or something like that.
So pretty dry.
I can definitely find that number for you.
Brilliant. Dolph,
if you need to know, we can get all the information from you off the allergen cards and tell you all of the makeup of the products. So if you need them, let us know.
And wrapping up there, is there any other questions from anyone? If not, I would just say from everyone, MHTV, I know we're running out of time. So from us, thank you very much indeed, Dolph, Claire, for your support with the session today and with sending the sample packs to the hotels. I know they've been very well received. Hopefully haven't all been drunk before today's session. But yeah, thank you for that. And we will be joined tomorrow on the 23rd of February by Glengoyne to talk us through their whiskey, and Megan's going to host tomorrow's call. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thanks again, Dolph and Claire. Great session on Bacardi, really informative, and I'll end the call there. So thank you very much.
You start your recording. I'm happy to do the quiz if people want to do the quiz.